So let's continue on and have a look at what this replacement trend is and how Hooker wants to challenge it. And basically, he wants to say, really, at the end, he's going to make an argument, try and argue and defend that he doesn't think that this is going to happen. Don't worry about the replacement. It could happen, but it doesn't have to happen. In other words, the replacement fear shouldn't be, expressed, let's say, as it's inevitable that AI will take over. No, it's not inevitable. Maybe it could happen, but he wants to argue that it's unlikely, and we still could control this. Okay, so the argument is to say, don't worry so much about this. So to get this discussion off the ground, he refers to a bit of sociology by Latour. What is sociology really about? The study of feedback loops, right? Systems influencing each other. And in that sense, it's the study of association. So by systems, it's an abstract way of talking like human systems, natural systems, non-human artifacts, all these kinds of things. Now, let's think about this. Here is where agency makes things possible. And in this sense, what we've got is we interact with the things that we make. Okay, we not only interact with nature, we interact with the things that we make. Hence the old notion of interaction, which was involved here with dehumanization. Right, as we interact, we become more dehumanized. We become like clacking insects. But the idea is that agency is modified through its interactions with other systems. So if agency is a kind of system and technological advancement or technology in general is another kind of system, the interactions will basically change agency. And so this you can think of it as a feedback loop. And this is old stuff, right? Coker says, you find it in sociology, but as Coker mentioned, you find it way back in the ancient Greek philosopher Plato in one of his late works, not often read, except by scholars, certainly not taught very often in courses, called The Laws, right? So this is a work that Plato wrote right at the end of his life. And you can think of it as the crankier version of his earlier work, The Republic. Plato was a little bit more of an optimist and then got a bit old and cranky and then wrote a book called The Laws. I want to just step outside and look at this notion of a feedback loop that is also very old, expressed in Plato, but I'm going to refer to a different dialogue, namely the Phaedrus, and the story of King Thamus and the god Thoth or Thoth. So Thamus and Thoth have this little chat, and what do they chat about? Well, basically, Thoth is an inventor god, and so Thamus is this ancient king of Egypt, and remember, Egypt was old even to the ancient Greeks. Egypt is a much older civilization than Greece was. And so this idea, even to an ancient Greek, there was an idea of ancient Egypt, even to Plato. And so Thoth one day comes up to the king, and I'm really loosely paraphrasing here, but this is a story that's told in a variety of books on technology and its influence. But Thoth says, "Hey, look, King Thamus, I've invented a pile of stuff. Isn't this cool? This is going to be to help you and your citizens and your subjects live better lives." And so the king, sure, show me your wares. What have you got? And so he says, I've got a bunch of things that will help you count, keep better records, do all kinds of water wheels, so a variety of technological devices. Now, technology, we just today often assume it has to be electronically driven, but a water wheel is a piece of technology, right? The wheel is technology. And another thing that's a technology in this broader understanding of technology is a book, right? That's a piece of technology. Right? So it's an artifact, it's a construction which we engage, you interact with it. And we often say, oh, this book, I love this book, it changed me. There you go. There's an interaction with a technology that actually changes. So if you read a book and it changes your outlook. That's an interaction with a piece of technology that has changed you, that has shaped you in some way. I came to a broader understanding about something. That's what we aim and we hope for, is that these interactions lead to the opening up of your agency, not the closing of it. All right. So there, back to our story. So he shows them all these water wheels and jugs and all kinds of devices in the ancient sense of device. And then it comes to writing, though. So not like a book, but writing as a technology, right? This is a technology, right? Think about it, right? It's quite fascinating that these little squiggly things I put up on the board, that's all different than than the board itself, and me and all that stuff. And what's even more interesting is you're not even looking at these things as little squiggles. You're looking at these things as bearers of meaning, right? So that's even more interesting. So technology bears meaning, and these squiggly things, they are bringing meaning and putting it into the machine and out to you. So it's a very interesting idea of what's going on here, and it's a very powerful thing. Think of how much power is in this technology of writing. Now think of the transition when a child moves from the purely, just the oral stage, right? Oral is in ears, right? To writing, to reading, right? Big change in a human being when that happens, right? When a kid learns to read, it's often a huge transformation in how they see the world. All of a sudden, street signs, they can read them. And so life changes quite dramatically when you can read. And then, of course, libraries, it's a totally different game. So, and Tamus was like, whoa, this reading thing. Now, I presented the reading thing as a great thing for kids. Tamus is not so sure, because he's going along the lines of what we could say is an old axiom. Changes can bring good things and bad things, right? All medicines have side effects, right? Something that's going to help you in one way, heal a cut or whatever, may give you a headache or whatever. So what are the side effects? He looks, so Toth comes in and praises writing, like this is going to be great. And Tamus is like, I'm not so sure. Now think about it. It's often been pointed out that in cultures with oral traditions, the storytelling was incredibly advanced, and the ability to listen to stories was incredibly advanced. And what do I mean by that? Well, supposedly in ancient Greece, people couldn't, the average person couldn't read and write. Certainly, it was rare to be able to do that. And poets would sing the Iliad. They would go around and sing. Now, would they sing the whole thing? Probably not, but they would sing sections of it. They would memorize it. Various poets would memorize parts of it, and the audience would listen to it, right? Think about that. Think about how different it is if you didn't have music that's recorded, that all the music, whenever you wanted to hear music, it had to be live, right? Quite fascinating. What would your relationship be to music in that context? So what would your relationship be to literature if it was all through the ear? Always. You couldn't read it. You always had to get it through the ear. What would your relationship be to Shakespeare if you couldn't read a play or study it in that sense of in that technology of writing and reading? If you only could see it performed, like you were in Elizabetha, the Groundlings, as they called them, they didn't read any of these things. They just went and saw the play. That's it. Didn't read it in advance. Never read about it afterwards. Just saw the plays. How would that be different? What would your relationship? Well, some people say, scholars have pointed out, that those societies that it was oral, they had an advanced capacity. They could remember more, right? Just think about, I'm old. I have actually a pre-internet brain where you have to remember telephone numbers, right? I don't remember telephone numbers anymore. I just dial them up, right? I don't dial it. Sorry, my device does it. So in that sense, Tamus he's anticipating some of this, and Plato was in on this. He's like, wait a second, if you bring in all this technology, it's going to do things that I do, which means I won't have to do them, which means I eventually won't be able to do them. So it's not going to necessarily increase my freedom. It's going to, decrease it. It's going to change me, right? hence the kind of dehumanization. I'll be someone who can't remember telephone numbers anymore. It could damage my short-term memory. So that's a negative thing for the king. He's like, I'm not so sure about that. We will Your technology, your writing will create forgetfulness in my subjects' souls. Right? It will not make them better. It will make them poorer at remembering things. And they will not use their memories. Memories will fade, right? You will be removing this memory and transferring it to here. I don't know. I don't remember, but I can look it up. Well, think about it. If that happens, you lack a trust in your own memory. We may start to distrust our memories, ourselves, and look always to books, which can be written things which can be more easily manipulated. There's a danger that it will be simply not. We won't have truth anymore. Tamus kind of goes really into this. You're not going to have truth. You're going to have semblance of truth, right? People will become detached from things, and that's not good. And they will appear. People, if you know how to look things up, you will appear more intelligent than you actually are. And you will believe you're more intelligent than you actually are. You'll become disconnected even from yourself. You'll have an inflated view of your abilities. This is not a good idea for society. So this notion of writing as a technology, right? It's not that mysterious, but it really goes to the heart of the way that agency is shaped by its relationship to technology, by its interactions, that is, with technology. And so this is, there isn't just, so on this spectrum, or shall we say, on this continuum of this interaction where technology, we produce technology, and then it has an impact on us, this feedback loop, what we can say, possibly today is this is just magnified more and more and more. There's a deeper feedback loop. So agency is not simply being, shall we say, influenced by the technology. It's ultimately being rearranged or managed. So it's on the same continuum, but it's being affected in a much larger way, to the point where we'd say it's being managed. All right, let's carry on and see where he goes with this.